800-462-3333. 800-462-3333.
All right, I'm going to get you in here, but just bear with me on the Slack. I got it. None of the spots aired over, so I got to just scrap everything. What's going on, you bunch of hooligans? What's going on? Robert Walsh here from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. It is 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm one tired dog. The big news from yesterday, Los Angeles Chargers completed their interview with Mike Vrabel. Chargers have also been in discussion with former Stanford head coach David Shaw, Bengals offensive coordinator Brian Callahan, Leslie Frazier, and Jim Harbaugh. And we had a late news dump last night with two more coaches completing interviews, one in Tennessee as the Titans completed their interview with Houston's offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick, and in Carolina, the Panthers completed their interview with Bucs offensive coordinator Dave Canales. And it wasn't just interviews, as some people got hired yesterday. Former Texans head coach Bill O'Brien, he spent last year as the offensive coordinator for the Patriots. This year, he will spend the offensive coordinator for Ohio State. The move comes with a potential shift within the Ohio State program, as Ryan Day sought out an experienced coach that would allow him to give up play calling duties. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
And the show goes on in a final frigid Friday of what has been a snow-covered week in Music City, USA. Welcome in to RKW, brewed up by 8th and Roast, with a full crew ready to go for 4 more hours. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Robert Walsh, our producer. My name is Will Bowling. The phone number is 615-737-1045. Streaming live on 1045 The Zone TV, with 7 interviews down and just 3 more virtually to go as the Tennessee Titans continue their search for a head coach. And in that search, for the second time, we tell the people that it is Friday, and we're going to act like it.
Sir Charles Jones.
For all the workers who are very cold,
Oh,
Yay.
bundle
good morning.
up.
How are we doing?
We're good.
Good.
Do you have a special
Absolutely
coffee,
good, man.
Ramon, today?
Do I have what?
Do you have a special coffee, like blend of 8th and Roast? Like,
I wish I did, Kayla. Not right now, just on the basis of I have a very basic coffee maker, okay? And it's not one of those very fancy, espresso type of
Okay.
things. So for me to conjure something up super special, it requires me to actually do extra work and get the creamer and steam it and add all of these types of things. So if I'm gonna drink it at home, I'm gonna do one of those little quick creamers and just stir. That's it.
Keep
Just
it
one
simple.
of those and roll.
okay. Sometimes it's opposite. Sometimes, I get a little bougie at home, so.
I thought about getting one of those machines. I actually had
Breaking Titans news on
I
104.5 The
actually had
Zone.
it saved on one of my carts somewhere, and I said, that's way too expensive for something that I know I'm not going to use every single day.
Mona, I don't mean to cut you off, but we do have some breaking Titans news.
Oh, boy.
We do.
Oh,
Oh, boy.
Adam Schefter of ESPN.com writing 2 minutes ago. Former Stanford head coach David Shaw, who interviewed Thursday to become the Chargers coach, will interview this weekend to become the Titans head coach. This will be David Shaw's 3rd NFL head coaching interview in the past year, along with the Broncos in 2023. David Shaw, an 11th virtual interview for the Tennessee Titans.
Man, I didn't expect him to be making rounds this time as far as head coaching vacancies, man. That's actually a little bit of a shocker to me. Not that he can't do it, but I didn't think his name was circulating like that.
No, I didn't either. I had heard a little bit, in terms of the LA Chargers, and that's pretty much it. And honestly, I kind of have forgotten about David Shaw. He's been such a solid coach at the college level for so long when he was at Stanford, obviously. Hadn't really caught up to what he had been doing lately. And then this pops up here. I'm like, okay, they obviously saw something in him that they wanted to at least get him in for a virtual interview.
Oh man, that's brand new news to me. Well, look at the Titans casting a wide net like they said they would. I guess it's this time they're actually showing us that they're doing exactly what they said they were going to do. I didn't expect those names, and I didn't know Bobby Slowick was going to interview that quickly either for the Titans. So they are making a move real fast, it seems like. Now this process seems to be speeding up now.
Yep, 7 interviews down, 2 more yesterday as the Titans completed an interview yesterday with Panthers offensive coordinator Thomas Brown and Texans OC Bobby Slowick. So some interesting news there with David Shaw becoming the 11th name on the Tennessee Titans list. David Shaw, of course, a mainstay at Stanford, followed Jim Harbaugh there and built Stanford into a pretty good football program before things kind of got stale and ended for him, unfortunately, there. And then we have Adam Schefter saying that, and Ian Rappaport saying just now as well that Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn will interview with the Titans and Falcons, it appears, this weekend.
Okay. And
potentially today.
Okay. And Aaron Glenn, obviously the one we've talked a lot about. Dan Graziano kind of bringing that up as one to really look out for, one that was kind of on his radar of what he's heard. So I was waiting for when that ball would drop of when he would get that virtual interview because there have been so many of them. It's been hard to keep up, but it looks like he'll get his chance. And then I'm guessing, guys, because we've seen Brian Callahan get the second interview that will be in person this next week. I'm guessing too we're going to see another handful that are going to get some in-person interviews next week. So that'll be good to see how they kind of break that down.
Yeah, it's wild how it goes from nothing to very fast in a matter of days, man. But this is a very sensitive thing as far as them getting their new guy in. So you got to kind of move like this. I'm somewhat shocked that David Shaw's name's coming up. I didn't have him as a candidate here, but of course, you never know what is he defensively, offensively, which candidate side that he's going to end up taking if he doesn't get a head coaching job. A lot of these dudes are probably being vetted for those reasons too, if they choose to move to a different location as far as just changing OC or joining somebody else's staff. I feel like whoever they decide to take as a head coach here in Nashville, they plan on keeping for a long time. And I know that sounds cliche as heck to say, but you're in a position where making another major change like they have the last 3 years, in 3 years, I think it really just sets you back too far to continually make those type of major mistakes for a franchise like this.
Well, one thing that I will say, and this will come off a bit disrespectful, and I do not certainly intend it to be that way, but it was a note Adam Schefter made yesterday when David Shaw interviewed with the Chargers. 16 hours ago, when Adam Schefter tweeted out David Shaw's interview, he added the note at the end of it saying they are now in compliance with the Rooney Rule. So what this does is it gives you an opportunity, I believe, to have an in-person interview with a coach who is outside of the NFL, who is a minority candidate, who gets you a step closer more quickly to satisfying the Rooney Rule, the way I understand it. So
right.
Adam Schefter saying that last night, that again, in-person interviews cannot start until Monday for coaches employed by other NFL teams whose seasons have ended. And, of course, you cannot start an in-person interview process with a coach until their season ends. So maybe the thought process behind this is it gets you one step closer to being more quick and efficient in your search. If you feel like you have a guy that you like who is not still coaching, But again, that's purely speculation on my part. Just wanted to add the context that Adam Schefter added yesterday.
And can I add this real quick too? And here's the thing about the rule. I think the rule had great intentions initially, and it's been walked around and ran into and thrown into a wall to get around certain stuff like this. Like you said, I think we know what David Shaw's role in this is. He's a second minority candidate. The rule has to be tweaked. It absolutely does. It started off with great wishes and highlighting people of minority and different genders and stuff like that. It has now just become a stopgate, I feel like, to a lot of different processes around the league, because you end up interviewing guys like David Shaw, respectfully, who may actually get on the staff because his name is fresh and new around. But to your point, and I think a lot of the conversation around the Rooney Rule now, it does have to be tweaked on how this process of hiring and interviewing minority candidates, and honestly just putting a highlight on a bunch of guys that's been behind the eight ball, like a Terrell Williams, who's now coaching at the Senior Bowl, that may actually need opportunities, but it can't be a roadblock every single time that an organization wants to hire somebody else. It almost comes backhanded. Honestly, looking at David Shaw's interview is just like, oh, okay, now we got it out the way. That's somewhat disrespectful for what the rule was initially set up for to me. That's my 2 cents, and I'm going to get off that soapbox.
We'll continue in hour one. Coming up next, 615-737-1045 is our number. Brent Hubbs of VolQuest runs through 2 major 5-star recruits who could be Vols by this time next week. We'll dive into that coming up at 7:20. Aditi Kinkhabwala, she will be on the sidelines for Bills and Chiefs on your radio signal right here on The Zone on this weekend. So you'll be hearing her for the first time on The Zone this weekend. Coming up at 9:20 this morning as she does that broadcast with Kevin Harlan and that great crew. But coming up next, we'll take a look at the headlines, and we'll take a look at Thomas Brown, the Panthers OC, who, for my money, is the least discussed candidate for the Titans head coaching position, why he's being interviewed, and why his experience might allow him to end up on this staff when the search is all said and done. Next on RKW.
Hey, it's Kayla Anderson for the Wang Vision Institute. They do everything when it comes to eye health extraordinarily, and they have the best doctors that will guide you in the right direction. Maybe you need to just get your eye check in terms of its health because you haven't done it in a while. We're used to go to the dentist and the doctor, but do not sit back on your eye health. They do it all well. They also do well in terms of skin. They are offering intense pulse light treatments now. You're maybe wondering what the heck that is. Well, it's a photofacial treatment, rejuvenating the skin. Maybe you're dealing with that sun damage. You see dark spots appear now that you're getting a little older. You've been in the sun for a lot of the years. Treatments also just even out the skin tone, texture, as well as hyperpigmentation. It helps fix that. So for more information on IPL treatments, along with other services that I mentioned about your eyes, you can visit wangvisioninstitute.com today. IPL treatments also creating long-lasting results, and the procedure super quick. It just takes 20 to 30 minutes to perform. Then you're out the door and on your way. And you can also, if you want to check out more about the eye health portion of what they do, there's a free online vision seminar that takes place every Tuesday at 6:45. You can RSVP, schedule your free consultation now. Go ahead and go to wangvisioninstitute.com, where your skin and eyes will thank you for the long-lasting results.
Friday morning on RKW, brewed up by 8th and Rose, 615-737-1045, our number, and streaming live on the 1045 The Zone app. Ramon Foster from the comforts of humble Hendersonville this morning. So downtown is great. Like downtown is, the roads are just wet, but if you got more sleet and freezing rain outside of the downtown area, you might be surrounded by ice rinks like Ramon Foster is this morning.
And you know what? It may not be as bad, but as far as trusting the overhead passes on Vietnam, I was just like, that might be a little bit iffy this morning. Plus, it just started snowing again. Well, we got flurries out here, so yeah, it's weird.
I think it's supposed to snow a little bit more this afternoon. The temperature is going to drop a little more. Also, a warning: it might be just as dangerous as when you're walking to your car than when you're actually on the road. So, people, please. Just be careful when you step out of your house and go to the sidewalks because you do not want to break your leg, your arm, or your back this morning.
Oh, you missed. God, I wish we had our Ring camera set up. We just unplugged our Ring camera yesterday to recharge it, and Cheyenne busted her ass coming into the house. I was like, hey, watch out for the stairs, baby, because bricks get slick real quick. And she walked up so confident. She was like, I don't even see any. Whoop.
That's when they get you.
No.
Ankles above head, you know.
That is when they get you.
Slam down.
Dang. That stinks.
Well, then she's mad at me like I put the ice there. You know? I'm like, I tried to tell you.
One final Sopranos reference. I did watch Many Saints of Newark last night, and if you watch that movie, you understand that slipping and falling and someone laughing at you can get you killed. So that's very topical, actually. Have you not, Ramon? Have you not seen that movie?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, well, literally, that's the. I won't give away any names, but that is literally, quite literally, the plot of a major character dying in the Sopranos universe. Is that someone slipped and fell, and someone else laughed, and so then they were killed.
I would suggest you watch Lion King, but there's a moment in there too. You need to cleanse your movie palette.
I know.
Wait, you haven't seen Lion King?
Oh, of course I have.
Okay, I was like, my goodness, what?
What I'm saying, I was going to suggest something better and kid-friendly to better his mind and thinking, but the way Scar did Mufasa, never mind, Will.
Well, I actually read like an analysis of the movie after I did it, because now I don't have to avoid any spoilers. I can just read because people write about this show and this stuff all the time because it's obviously widely considered the best show of all time. And it was funny that they actually compared it to The Lion King. So it's funny you say that because there are a lot of uncle and nephew conflicts and evil uncle storylines, which everyone always relates back to The Lion King in The Sopranos. So anyway, if you were wondering if we could compare The Lion King to The Sopranos on this radio program this morning before 6:30 in the morning, we have done that.
That's achieved.
615-737-1045. Thomas Brown is the offensive coordinator, or was, of the Carolina Panthers, guys. Is it fair to say at this point he is being discussed the least as a legitimate head coaching candidate for the Tennessee Titans? Fair?
Fair. Definitely fair. Yeah.
Well, I think it's relevant to look into his background as someone who could be the Matt LaFleur of this search. And when you look at a guy who as recently as 2015 was coaching Sony Michel and Nick Chubb at Georgia as a running backs coach at Georgia, offensive coordinator, running backs coach at Miami, coach running backs for South Carolina. So a lot of SEC ties and experience there. But I think specifically, guys, the Super Bowl ring that he has as the running backs coach, and I think the other part of this that's interesting is assistant head coach of the Los Angeles Rams in 2021 is what is of particular interest. As you guys read about him and look at his resume and credentials, what stands out the most?
To me, I almost feel like, other than his age, he probably has the most on-the-job experience, or just as much as everybody else. That's what's more fascinating about me with him is, I was somewhat surprised to hear his name, but I didn't realize he laid down a pathway as long as he has. Well, I'm not sure if you're going to lay it out for him. He's 3 years as Miami offensive coordinator, go to LA, and he's coaching there. He was strength and conditioning coach. So he's been bottom of the bottom to the top of the top so far as he can go right now. I was actually reading up on some stuff about him from when he was brought in Carolina, and it's some very unique stuff. It's some very real leadership type of stuff that he has going on that I had no idea that he was capable of doing. If you don't mind, I have a quote of his philosophy from when he was in Carolina on how he wanted to be an offensive coordinator, a play caller. Will you have that pulled up? You want me to go ahead?
You
and
go for it.
Here's the thing that he said about him, man. He said they in Carolina, essentially they had a multitude of receivers. Of course, when you look at Thielen and other veteran dudes that he said that he had on this team, but he said there's benefit in having multiple trusted wide receivers, running backs, and tight ends. That's what they signed this offseason. But here's where what he said for me that somewhat raised my eyebrows, and not that this guy's a young pushover dude. He said this, and it's on Panthers.com. He said, I'm not in the business of controlling people's happiness. I'm not the happy police, he said. But definitely guys are wanting to be more involved. You want to have guys on your roster that want the ball in their hands and want to make plays. It's a big part of what motivated guys up until this point, but it also make you harder to defend. Here's where it got me with him. He said, guys want, the ball every single time. He said, but it's also where you just can't pinpoint on the ball is going to this guy the majority of the time. Being able to spread the ball around, distribute to the entire field, and make the defense have to defend within the depths of the entire field, that's the overall goal. That, to me, is where I think the Titans deserve to have this new age mindset of whoever the offensive coordinator is going to be. He acknowledged, the ball should go to the main guy when he establishes himself, but spread this offense out and move it up and down the field, somewhat what we saw the LA Rams do in the Super Bowl run, right?
Yeah. Speaking of that Super Bowl run, and a couple of notes that I have to make on this, I actually reached out to Brad Hopkins. His son Bryson Hopkins plays for the LA Rams, is a tight end there. And this is actually Thomas Brown in 2022 was that assistant head coach and tight ends coach. So I'm curious to see what Brad Hopkins has to say about just what he was like as a coach, as a leader, because I think we've heard the stuff about what he's done in terms of some of the places as an offensive coordinator and the X's and O's, but it's made clear by Amy Adams-Strunk that she wants a head coach that is going to be able to build a culture here. And I'm curious to see what his take is on that, because I think there's nothing better in terms of a source than somebody who's close to the situation. So when I get that, I'll definitely let you guys know here this morning. But when you look back at his resume, I agree. I mean, he's been in so many different places, college, through the NFL. He's been obviously with the LA Rams, with the Carolina Panthers in Miami. And I think what makes people a little uneasy about this, guys, is because when you look at just his last stop and what have you done for me lately, sometimes we get caught up in that. And you look at the numbers in terms of Carolina's offense last year, they weren't great. I mean, they were 32nd, I think, in passing offense. They were towards the bottom of the league in almost everything. However, he did not have play calling duties to start the season. So this is something you've got to look at, too, with what was really going on behind the scenes and what is going on behind the scenes at Carolina that maybe wasn't allowing him to do what he wanted to do as an offensive coordinator. That I don't think we can just put that all on him and say just because the numbers were bad last year in Carolina doesn't mean he's going to be a bad head coach. Or, hey, what if he comes here and is the offensive coordinator? They're interviewing so many of these guys that one of these guys or gals even can end up as a coordinator here. And I think this is a guy who could fit that role as well if he doesn't get that head coaching job.
Yeah, I think there's a chance for Thomas Brown to be on the staff regardless of who the head coach is. And when you look at 2021 specifically and the way he was able to be in the room with Matthew Stafford in Matthew Stafford's Super Bowl winning breakout season at L.A., Matthew Stafford led all quarterbacks in air yards per attempts and completions of 30-plus yards. Sounds a little bit like Will Levis and what the Titans want Will Levis to be. And at 8:20 this morning, stick around with us then or check it out on the podcast after the show because we're going to have a big discussion on what we want Will Levis to be because the Josh Allen comparison is so prevalent with Will Levis that maybe as much as Josh Allen just mashes all the buttons at the same time, there's a better quarterback to compare him to as the model for what Will Levis can be eventually. But I'll go ahead and just give you a hint on one of my answers because I've kind of have a two-part answer in that. Matthew Stafford is not a bad model for what Will Levis could turn into. When you talk about the mobility, the arm strength, the size, the overall strength and athleticism that he showcases, and the different arm slots that he can throw out of. I think relating someone to Will Levis, who was in the same room as Matthew Stafford in that Super Bowl winning season, is important. And also, again, there's a Liam Cohen connection, which, again, I think is relevant. And Thomas Brown is a guy who was in that same Rams building as Kentucky offensive coordinator Liam Cohen, who left Will Levis after his junior season in 2021 to go to the Rams. Will Levis then has his senior season that isn't as great, and then Liam Cohen is back through all of that. So I think it's interesting and noteworthy that you're bringing in someone who is a derivative of that Sean McVay coaching tree and is related to the coach that got Will Levis to be the best version of himself his next to last year in college.
Can I just say this, Will? Why aren't they including you in this head coaching search? Because that was one hell of a break.
Because I am generally not very intelligent, but that's okay. If they need somebody to learn how to run 12 and a half or 25 laps on a track, I'm their guy.
Oh, I won't front. That was real good, man, because my thing with Levis is when you mention Matthew Stafford, here's the differences. And I know this is a later conversation. We can bring this up later, but the difference between him and Stafford to me is Stafford, I thought, came out with a little bit more smoothness. I think if we're going to ask anything from Levis is, hey, man, instead of washing your car and letting it drive, how about buff it out this time? Like, he needs to buff it out because he has all the tools. It's just a matter of smoothness for me with Will Levis moving forward. He'll grow up the way he needs to if he's going to be coached up well by the next guy. But that, to me, is where he should be at, you know?
Yeah, I wanted to mention, too, with Thomas Brown, just because we're learning more about him as a candidate, just like Will said, I don't think we've known much about him in terms of, how he's favored around the league. He was actually ranked the number 2 offensive coordinator in the end of the season NFL Players Association survey. So players say that they believed in him even when the Carolina Panthers season was a little rocky. So that means a lot in my eyes if the players are voting on that.
And again, you can't just box score scout assistant coaches in the National Football League, because I had somebody tweet at me yesterday, well, you can't hire the 32nd ranked coordinator in the league in any circumstance. Yeah, you know who's hired the 32nd ranked coordinator in the league according to scoring? The Tennessee Titans with Mike Vrabel. I mean, again, like 2017, the Houston Texans defense was 32nd in the NFL in scoring defense. And Mike Vrabel was widely considered a good hire and ended up being a great hire that got you to an AFC championship game. You think that was the wrong decision then just because he was on the 32nd ranked defense? Probably not.
Hey, go off, Will.
Probably not.
Yeah.
I mean, look, is there a coach who is succeeding in that building with David Tepper with all of the new pieces they had and a rookie quarterback who's, smaller than me when I was a college athlete soaking wet? I don't know anyone who is succeeding in that Panthers organization this season.
That's why I feel like they could steal him, just even if it is a lateral move to go to offensive coordinator, because you're in a better environment with a better culture. That is a crap show down there, and he's a cancer in terms of David Tepper.
It is, and to lean more into the idea of the coordinator that you're going to love with the longest rap sheet and everything else too. Like, maybe that guy is probably better as a number 2 guy instead of the number 1, when we're talking about, how long their accomplishments are and stuff like that. And again, all of these coordinators or former head coaches are going to have some blemishes on their record. To get the home run guy, he's already hired at a place that's keeping him employed. You're not going to get Andy Reid. You're not going to get these types of guys because they're already employed. So, yes, this new person that the Titans hire will have some blemishes on his record. We're just keeping you informed as much as we possibly can on what the candidates have done and how they can match in Nashville. Is that fair for everybody to say what we're doing?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And Mike Vrabel, as a defensive coordinator in Houston before they hired him as head coach here, it wasn't the best defense. Those numbers weren't jumping off the page. And he was able to come in here and for a few years have a lot of success.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I think it's irresponsible to just assume that somebody related to a team with numbers like that is not a legitimate option. I think, too, you could make the argument that similarly with players, you find a guy like this who was tied to a toxic organization, his value is never going to be lower. Like, if you genuinely believe that this is a coach who has a future as an OC and maybe as a head coach one day in this league, you have the opportunity to maybe even add him to your staff, not as an OC this upcoming cycle. Like, I could see a scenario where, again, if you're stockpiling assistant offensive coaches to pair with a defensive coach, I could see a scenario where 3 of these candidates are brought in because Thomas Brown doesn't have a job right now, right? Like, it's not like the Titans are taking him away from Carolina. Carolina's likely going with an offensive mind for Bryce Young because they know who their quarterback is and they have to make that work. So Thomas Brown is out of a gig. You've got an opportunity to bring him here. I wonder if he is assistant head coach and running backs coach, similarly to what he was in L.A. If you have Aaron Glenn, maybe you have 3 of these guys. And you've got Aaron Glenn, Brian Callahan calling plays, and you've got Thomas Brown at running backs. Like, that to me is the ultimate fix to what ultimately plagued Mike Vrabel, right? You had a lot of promotions from within on a staff that you felt like Amy Adams-Strunk needed to see major change on. This would be major change. And again, I think is why you can't totally rule out a defensive candidate being the coach here anyway, too.
And real quick, the conversation with Mike Payton we had yesterday, too. Remember, we were talking about the stats and where Detroit's defense was. The context he added was they have a very young defense, too. You're going to give up some stuff when we're looking at these league rankings and where these guys sit. Look at what he's gotten out of those players. Like I said, it's every candidate we've looked at, and that goes for Bobby Slowick, too.
615-737-1045. Coming up next, there is an addition to LinkedIn University that should have been made yesterday, but instead was made to the University of Miami's 2024 roster. A story you have to hear to believe next. Hey, what's going on? It's Will Bowling. Is your water heater not heating? Maybe your sink is leaking or the drain is clogged. Well, available 24/7, 365. Our expert friends at Lee Company have you covered for all of your plumbing needs. And look, we've all been snowed in a little bit. We're iced in a little bit today. We've become a little bit more intimately familiar with what's not working around the house, unfortunately. Well, hey, Lee Company, they're going to have you covered. And right now, you can enjoy $20 off a plumbing service call for a limited time. You can contact Lee Company today at 615-567-1000 or go to leecompany.com for an appointment to take care of your home's plumbing from top to bottom. Again, enjoy $20 off a plumbing service call for a limited time with the experts at Lee Company. Remember this number, 615-567-1000. Lee Company has you covered, everything you need in your home. Take advantage of this great offer for your plumbing right now at leecompany.com. 615-567-1000. That's Lee Company, all you need.
Life is busy. We could all use some extra time in our day, which is exactly why Two Rivers Ford offers mobile service. We'll bring the service to your driveway at no additional charge. Oil changes, brakes, batteries, the certified technicians at Two Rivers will perform basic maintenance on your vehicle wherever you are, so you'll have more time for moments like this. Schedule your mobile service appointment by scanning the QR code or calling Two Rivers Ford today.
RKW is brewed by 8th and Roast on 104.5 The Zone as we wrap up hour number one. Brent Hubbs of VolQuest takes us through the Tennessee headlines coming up at 7:20. We'll run through the two interviews the Titans had yesterday, plus the new one that was requested this morning with an unlikely candidate. That's coming up in 15 minutes. Streaming live on 104.5 The Zone TV and the 104.5 The Zone app. Guys, instead of LinkedIn University getting a commitment yesterday, and by that I mean literally just a guy entering the workforce, we have a 25-year-old tight end who's going to keep playing football. Did you guys see this yesterday on social media?
Yes.
Miami tight end Cam McCormick confirmed Thursday that he will be returning to Miami for his ninth season. His ninth season of college football. So just to put this in perspective, Cam McCormick started his career at Oregon in 2016. I started my very illustrious and obviously well-documented, legendary, I say that with the most sarcasm possible. I started my non-revenue athletic career at Tennessee in 2015. This guy was starting, I was still a college athlete, and I have been retired for 8 years in the time that this guy started his career at the University of Oregon in 2016. So this guy was in the same recruiting class as guys who have second contracts in the National Football League. That includes Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert was in the same signing class as Cam McCormick at Oregon. And Nick Bosa, Ed Oliver, Rashawn Gary, and Jalen Hurts were all in that class as
Wow.
well.
I was not even here in Nashville yet. I was still in Columbus, Ohio, covering sports. And that is nuts to think about. A guy who is still in college, who has been there for 9 years and is still playing, and he's 25, you said. At what point do you feel like, okay, I've gotten enough of the college experience. I'm satisfied with that. It's now time to move into the real world. Clearly, he's going to soak it up for every last bit of it. And it's surprising. To say the least.
My youngest was four years old at that time. Okay, he's now 11 and in middle school.
Oh my gosh!
He's now 11 and in middle school, y'all.
What the heck?
Dude, like, why do they keep saying? See, this is where the NCAA burns people right here. They say yes to him, but they said no to the wide receiver at North Carolina.
Well, and in this offseason to Talia Tagovailoa at Maryland, who, because of an injury to Tua in an Alabama game, played 2 snaps in relief of Tua Tagovailoa, and that counted as a game played, and they rejected his waiver for an additional year of eligibility in 2024 because he played 2 snaps for his injured brother at Alabama.
See, that's that foolishness right there, though, man. Can we talk about Buddy's age, though, too?
Yeah, that's what Ron Slay
What do
said
you
in the
mean?
chat.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, so he's a year younger than me, and I'm 26. He's 25.
What we doing here, man?
That's so weird.
That's what I'm
though.
saying. No, I mean, so, all right, the way this happened was he redshirted as a true freshman, then played in 13 games as a reserve in 2017. Then came a string of injuries. A broken leg in 2018, followed by complications that cost him 2019 and 2020. Then a foot injury 2 weeks into the 2021 season. Got a 6th year of eligibility in 2019, then added another in 2020 for the COVID year. In 2022, he played a full season and earned the Orange Bowl Courage Award for his perseverance, appearing in 13 games and making 6 starts. It was granted an 8th and 9th years of eligibility ahead of 2023 before transferring to Miami, and then had to resubmit his waiver to the ACC for the 9th year this offseason.
Can you imagine being 25 and getting tackled by an 18-year-old? Can you imagine 18-year-olds beating the hell out of you on a football field? If this dude doesn't dominate, if this dude's not like an 11-year-old playing Little Tykes football, then what are we doing? If you're not playing at 25 and you still keep coming back, this dude needs to be starting on both sides of the ball. He's a grown-ass man. He's playing against kids.
I would imagine he will turn 26 before the football season. So he's 25 now, which, again, that was how I was. Like, I was young for my grade, and that math lines up because I'll be 20. This would have been, my 10th year if I was still somehow eligible and running. That's what I needed, honestly, to be somewhat average in my college sport, was to just be 6 years older than the people that I was running against. They still would have beat me. Don't kid yourself, Will. But the math checks out if he is, like, young for his grade, which I guess he is. So he would have just turned 18 for his freshman year.
That's just weird. It's all this. Like, how much better has he gotten? Like, at this point, how many degrees does he have too? We're talking about Oregon. We're talking about Miami. Like, these are places at a high educational institutions. Like, he needs to have. At this point, he could be a doctor or at least a pharmacist.
Something tells me he didn't go in that direction.
The last game of the season, they're going to let him score a touchdown like they let all those old men score touchdowns. It's like, oh, bring him back in. They're going to let him run. They're like, he's running through the defense. People are diving at him. He's like, I finally did it, guys.
So he had a master's when he left Oregon.
What?
So he started at Miami already with a master's. So he was he had an undergrad degree in journalism and a master's in advertising and brand responsibility. Honestly, the kid's smart for getting a degree in journalism, but doing the smart thing and just having fun in college and not doing what us idiots are doing.
Need to classify him as a senior citizen instead of a senior. Not a 5th-year senior. He is a senior citizen.
New title.
That's what I was going to say. Can you imagine his pre-practice prep? He's putting on icy hot, getting in the hot tub.
Right?
That's
Benjamin
crazy.
Button.
He's got those days off as a senior, like practice days. Just rest.
So Ron Slay in the FNN Bank chat says, I came to school at 17, played 4 years, and finished at 21. So
Wow.
if he's in his 9th year, then That math checks out then. You just add 5 more years, and
Yep.
that's ninth
Yeah.
year. So he would have finished his 4th year at 21 and his 9th year at 26.
Man, by the way, it's coming down here in Hendersonville.
Is it really?
Is it really?
Heck yeah.
Just flurries, light flurries, and
Take us outside with you.
downtown Nashville.
Man,
Let's do a zoom
Let's
on
do a
a
house
sled.
tour. Ramon, can we get a house tour real quick?
yep,
Stay
that's
tuned
it.
for that. Coming up next, a Zone TV exclusive. We'll welcome you to Ramon Foster's crib next on RKW.
Crib.
What's going on? 701. Happy Friday, Nashville. From the 104.5 The Zone Studios, I am Robert Walsh. The big news from yesterday, the Los Angeles Chargers completed their interview with Mike Vrabel. Chargers have been in a discussion with a couple other coaches, one being former Stanford head coach David Shaw, Bengals offensive coordinator Brian Callahan, Leslie Frazier, and Jim Harbaugh. And speaking of David Shaw, we learned this morning that he is also interviewing with the Titans. And in late news last night, as two more coaches completed interviews, one more with the Titans, as Houston's offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick interviewed with Tennessee. And in Carolina, the Panthers completed their interview of Bucks offensive coordinator Dave Canales for their head coaching position. And it wasn't just interviews. Some people were hired yesterday, as former Texans head coach Bill O'Brien has been hired as Ohio State's new offensive coordinator. He spent last year as the OC in New England. The move comes with a potential shift in the Ohio State program, as Ryan Day sought out an experienced coach that would allow him to give up play calling duties. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Seven a.m. in Nashville on a beautiful Friday morning in the Music City. And what we always say is if you woke up in the Music City, it's a beautiful morning. You're already off to a great start beginning your Friday. We are RKW, brewed by 8th and Roast, welcoming in Brent Hubbs of VolQuest in 15 minutes as two Tennessee targets, one for 2024 and one for 2025, get ready to announce their decisions in the coming days. Brent Hubbs gives us the latest on that and gets us ready for Tennessee and Alabama on the hardwood tomorrow. I will be making the trip, hopefully over the Cumberland Plateau that I hope today is free of ice. I hope. Fingers crossed.
I know. I know it's supposed to get cold again today, and it's snowing up in Hendersonville per our Ramon Foster. Little flurries here. So hopefully that it makes it for not melting completely, because I feel like then you're going to have icy conditions, but
Right.
You'll get there, Will.
Eventually, over the river and through the woods.
Yes.
Ramon Foster, who is on Zoom with us this morning. Will Bowling, Kayla Anderson with you in studio. And I believe, muted Ramon Foster on Zoom right now.
Is he looking?
There
is he looking at Bambi out there in the backyard?
No, I am, because they make this trek around my neighborhood. Bert just asked me a very violent question.
He did. He did.
But no, these are some huge deer out here. I think they're does. It's 2 does and 3 fawns, I think, is who's with them right now. And they are huge. They went around my house and now in the front of my house. They're running now. They must hear me talking about them to Bert.
Right?
Don't let me smell them out, man.
Dear.
They look very fat and thick over there.
Did you see them, though?
Too
I don't know if
cute.
I should even tweet this out.
I'm telling you, man, there's some good-looking deer over there. People going to be in your backyard if you let them know that, man.
No.
Also,
no.
people want a tour of your house just to see the 18 Christmas trees.
Kayla, you of all people should be better than this, Kayla. Okay? Golly. Okay, I'm gonna change your middle name to Kayla Tamika here in a little bit. Okay,
it works.
Better than this.
Alicia, Katia, I know you're going to hear this because I'm the man. 615-737-1045, our number. I think I broke Ramon on that one just for a
You
second.
did. You did. I had a question to ask for you, though, too.
Go ahead.
Because driving in these conditions, you can tell I'm a wuss about it. I will not front. I'll do it, but I'm a wuss about it, though, too. But here's the thing. How slow are you willing to drive to make it to your destination if you're on a major highway or interstate?
Yeah, and that's
Depends on
the
traffic.
thing, because you don't know in the morning. I'll give morning people a little bit tougher of a trek because you can't see a lot of the black ice. And look, black ice can happen, like you said, Ramon, under those bridges.
It got me
or
before.
On. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually scarier sometimes on the freeway or highway than it is back roads sometimes, just because you feel like you can go fast on that. And sometimes if you hit that black ice, then you're in trouble.
about 45, 50 the slowest you can go on the interstate, possibly.
Yeah.
Depends on how much traffic's around you, because I think you just kind of go with the general flow of traffic and just don't get run off the road, basically.
Okay.
Because if you're going 55, but 18-wheelers are going around you going 65 in it, you kind of just have to match what they're doing, because they're going to spray all that crap all over you anyway. That you might as well just kind of find a spot attraction that you like. Can we make our own little breaking or developing news sounder? Because Ramon can't hear when we hit the button. So
Breaking news, sports news on 104.5 The Zone.
Da-da-da-da. The Tennessee Titans, per Ian Rappaport of NFL Network, will interview Eagles offensive coordinator Brian Johnson today.
Wah, wah.
Well, come on. What's the negative?
Sorry.
No, that's not what it sounds like.
I'm sorry. Was that a natural reaction there?
Bum, 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 bum. This is an urgent news bulletin to the desk of 104.5 The Zone this morning. Good morning, I'm Will Bowling. The Tennessee Titans will interview Eagles offensive coordinator Brian Johnson today for head coach. Streaming live at 104.5 The Zone TV. We keep you updated with the latest of the Titans coaching search right here. Dun, 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 dun. And you go back to your regular programming.
You got to put the whoosh in, though. The whoosh has a.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
I actually hate that I actually know what you guys are actually doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was too many actuallys right there, too. I hate
Actually,
what
it
you
was.
guys did, and I understood it, okay? All that type of stuff was actually pretty good. So, I honestly, A for effort right there.
Hey,
Yes.
A for
take
effort.
the surprise out your voice.
I love how we just are trying to scoot over the Brian Johnson interview.
We all really are.
Hey, Brian, can you tell us about A.J. Brown and just how much we messed up on that?
I see
Yeah,
Amy
pretty-
Adams Strunk sitting down with someone who's worked with A.J. Brown. What gives you the right?
That's a real thing.
Who do
though.
you
Will, like,
think you are?
Hey, Miss Amy walked in there and was like, "Hey, tell us how you really feel about us, okay, with him." Like, those are the type of questions I need answers
She
for.
is cruising for a bruising, and she is Brian Johnson's cruise captain, as Michael Scott would say with Toby Flenderson in his exit interview from Dunder Mifflin. 615-737-1045. I pity anyone who listens to this radio program who hasn't seen The Office and does not understand the reference. Yes, I'm talking to you, Ron Soleil. Titans yesterday completed an interview with Panthers OC Thomas Brown and Texans OC Bobby Slowick. If you missed it this morning as well, Stanford head coach David Shaw is the new interview request the Titans put out this morning. Shaw, the winningest head coach in the history of Stanford football, with a record of 96-54 in 12 seasons as head coach.
What I like about this one, guys, is, everybody's getting an opportunity to interview, obviously, for the head coaching job. Now, David Shaw, who I just think got stale at Stanford, I don't think it was something where he didn't have coaching ability anymore. That doesn't happen like that. I think it was probably a mutual parting there. He took last year off, and it now looks like he's ready to maybe get back in the mix. My take on this is, even if he's not going to be a head coach, why not interview a guy that you could potentially look at as just bringing on your staff, helping this offense in some way? This is an offensive-minded guy. He has so much experience, even in the pros before he went to Stanford, as a quarterbacks coach, as a wide receivers coach. I feel like just having his veteran presence and the head coaching, past at Stanford and knowing offenses, I think this could help in that kind of a situation. Not sure if he would take that kind of position, but might as well interview him if he's not a head coach. Maybe present him with an opportunity to be somewhere on this offensive staff.
And here's the thing, too. In order for David Shaw to get another job, he actually have to get employed by one, too, as far as moving on to his next gig. I think that's why it's most beneficial for him to take this interview, let everybody, oh, yeah, to your point, Kay, like, oh, yeah, David Shaw, we remember you. To whereas if he does get on staff here, coaching a position, or if he's an analyst, again, you can't get your next gig if you don't actually have one also to move you to a better one. So if he's not Kayla hired, and if he's getting more interviews, I think that's better for his career as in general, as far as he's concerned. So I like what the Titans are doing so far, though. And of course, it got us all confused.
David Shaw, also the third coaching candidate whose dad was an NFL coach of the 11 the Titans have requested to speak to. David Shaw's father, Willie, had a 33-year career as a coach across college and the NFL, including 2 different stints at Stanford as a defensive coordinator and other positions. And he was the defensive backs coach, actually, of the Chargers in 1994, Willie Shaw. David Shaw does have NFL experience under his belt as well, following 2 seasons at Western Washington University, which, again, you can scratch that off your bingo card this morning. A Western Washington shout-out here on the show. Began his NFL coaching career with the Eagles as a quality control coach in 1997. And perhaps that is the best way for David Shaw to be a coach again, either in college or in the NFL, is go be a position coach for an NFL team. And obviously you can't go to the Nick Saban school of retread coaches now because Nick Saban is retired and that school has been defunded. So you can't go to that college machine and be an analyst there to revive your career. This is another way to do it.
It is. When you just put them up on a tee and knock them out right there, man, is what we're looking for.
You taught me
Friday,
well,
man. But it's good stuff. I like the fact that they have a wide array of people that they're looking at, and I can say that time and time again. But eventually, we're going to start looking at these second interview guys that are supposed to come back into the city. Would you be disappointed if Thomas Brown didn't get the second interview? After looking at his track record and what he's done, I'd be somewhat, just like, maybe he deserves another conversation with him, but we'll see what this looks like moving forward.
I think he deserves it. I mean, I don't know what happened in that room. That's between Amy Adams Strunk, Rand Carthon, and the candidate. But after doing a lot more research on him, and I am curious what Brad Hopkins says about him, because Bryson obviously played with him in L.A. or was a player under him as a tight ends coach. And so I'm curious to get that input from him whenever he gets back to me. But I think, he has enough on that list in terms of his resume to probably get a call back if he can be that leader that Amy Adams Strunk is looking for.
I think with 11 candidates, I mean, it's such a wide net that I don't have really super strong feelings about any of them getting or not getting a second interview.
Yeah.
Other than maybe the top 2 or 3 we've discussed, Aaron Glenn, Bobby Slowick, and Brian Callahan. And Callahan, the one guy who so far has gotten a call back for the leading role of head coach. Coming up next, Brent Hubbs of VolQuest will join us. 2 Tennessee targets getting ready to commit. We'll get the latest on 1 local and 1 5-star lineman who would be on campus immediately upon committing. Next with Brent Hubbs.